We have arrived at the epic conclusion to James gunning for Superman, and the moment of truth is at hand. This episode, we'll be ranking all of the Superman movies. Enjoy, keep an open mind as we explain our rankings, and share your list with us on social media. By the way, we recorded this episode after I saw James Gunn's Superman for the first time, but I'm happy to say that I stand by my initial ranking even after my second viewing. Of course, there will be spoilers for each of the films, including the new movie. You have been warned. I also want to welcome another sponsor to our community, the brand new show, This Podcast Will Never Die, hosted by Robbo. Have you ever wondered what would happen if a person who knew barely anything about comics decided to absorb hundreds of Superman stories from all eras? Robbo is that kind of person, and that's exactly what he's done on his new show. It's an examination of stories, characters, genres, and ideas from pop culture that have stood the test of time. Robbo genuinely wants to know why people love this stuff, and he puts in the work it takes to learn. The first season is called Superman Will Never Die, and the first episode is all about the unexpected ways the Man of Steel stood out from the pulp heroes he competed with in 1938. I'll be listening, and I hope you will too. Listen and subscribe to This Podcast Will Never Die, and you'll never look at Superman's trunks the same way again. Link is in the show notes. And now, the finale to James gunning for Superman. Welcome to Digging for Kryptonite, a Superman fan journey. I'm your host, Anthony Desiato. Joining me to rank all the Superman movies, including James Gunn's Superman, is the host of Always Hold On to Smallville, our pal, Zach Moore. Welcome back.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
No doubt. Man, we have chosen violence here tonight in ranking these movies, I think. Here's the thing. No matter what our rankings are, I know people are going to disagree with them. And in a way, that's actually pretty freeing. Or at least that's how I find it to be. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's when a new Superman movie is released, it's like a new entry into the canon. There's like importance. There's weight to this, right? Especially, we're not as fortunate as Batman fans. And I count myself as a Batman fan, but Superman's my number one guy. I know you feel similarly, Anthony. So when a new movie comes out, it's a huge deal. It's going to sit on the shelf with all these other movies for the rest of our lives. I mean, there's a reason why films like Superman 3 and 4 will be talked about for decades, long past any films of equal or greater quality that came out in the similar years as them. So it's such a special time when a new film comes out. And as we've learned in our lifetime, you can't take this for granted when a new Superman film comes out, right?
It's true. We only get a new big screen iteration or even just another movie every so often. So it is an event every time it happens. And this is part of our celebration. Our lists are going to be different. Our list will be different from the audiences. And to anyone listening to this, I would just say, share your rankings. I'd be really curious. Mm-hmm. And you and I will be friends when this is done, no matter what our lists look like. And the same can be said for everyone out there as well in an ideal scenario. So we're going to have a lot of fun with this. In terms of what exactly we're ranking, we had some back and forth in terms of, okay, what exactly are we going to include? Mm-hmm. And sort of the guiding principle was feature-length, live-action, theatrical movies. We did make an exception to include the director cuts of Superman 2 and Justice League. So the dozen movies that we are ranking are George Reeves in Superman and the Mole Men, the 4 Christopher Reeve films, as well as the Donner cut of Superman 2, Superman Returns, Man of Steel, BVS, both versions of Justice League, and of course, James Gunn's Superman. And like we've done with our other countdowns and whatnot, we will alternate. And whenever a movie comes up for the first time, we'll both talk about it.
So you're telling me I didn't need to rewatch the theatrical version of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice for this, Anthony?
No, that's one where I think all of us have just kind of collectively pushed aside that initial theatrical cut.
Absolutely.
The Ultimate Edition is really the only one that counts.
It truly is the Ultimate Edition. Yeah, of all these alternate cuts and things like that. I mean, I saw that twice in the theater and have never seen it since. And I never intend to. I don't think, a lot of people, they say when they get a new version of something, I'm just going to take this old disc and throw it away. And I never feel that way. But that is one case where I absolutely would agree. So anyway, all that to say, yes, since we're talking about 2 Superman 2s, 2 Justice League, just wanted to throw that out there. There are technically 2 released BVSs, but we're talking about the Ultimate Edition, and rightfully so.
Yeah, for sure. In a way, this is a sequel of sorts, because at the beginning of 2024, you and I ranked all of the DCEU movies. That was a lot of fun. We got a great response to that. So here we are at it again. And last couple of things before we get started, I just want to say to the audience, obviously, as we go through these, we'll give the reasons for the placement of each movie. But at the same time, we have done individual standalone episodes on every movie that we're talking about. So if you want full-fledged deep dives, 2+ hours on all of these individual movies, they're there. Go through the back catalog. Check out Zach's podcast too. You've covered this stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I've talked about all these too.
Yeah, so there's a lot more discussion of these out there. I guess, yeah.
I have a podcasting question for you real quick. Since you said that, do you ever feel like you have to, well, I said this then, I better stay in line with what I say? Because I feel like I contradict myself all the time. Years past, we've both been podcasting for years. My opinions about these movies have changed, and I don't try to hide that. I lean into that. I'm like, hey, look, you might listen to something from me from 10 years ago or whatever, and I might have a radically different, but that is the Superman fan journey that you're on, right? That we're all on.
Dude, that's the thing. And yeah, no, I know there are times where I'm contradicted myself. So in most instances, I like to think it's knowingly, right? Where I'm acknowledging that, okay, my position has shifted, but I don't know. Sometimes I just don't remember. I mean, so much talking about this stuff. I don't always know. And yeah, whether it's conscious or not, yeah, just perspective shifts. So yes, I know, I know that definitely happens here too. Mm-hmm. I guess my last really only big picture question for you before we start. I mean, how easy or hard was it to land on this ranking?
The middle is hard. The middle was hard for me, like in the fringes of the middle, So
Okay.
that's good. I'm not going to say anything beyond that because I might give stuff away, but I found that difficult to and you know what? If we did this next week, next month, next year, that middle might be different. I feel like the tops and bottoms are pretty constant, but the middles are always shifting for me.
Gotcha. Funny enough, I think I struggled the most with the very top of the list. And I feel good with where I landed. And I listened to the truth of my heart. I went with what has meant the most to me. And that's all I'll say as well. But that was the part of the list that I kind of struggled with the most. But yeah, just kind of being true to myself was the way through it for me. So, all right, shall we start? This is exciting.
This is super exciting. I love doing the DCU countdown with you, and this is a proper sequel. So I'm very excited. Let's get into it.
Because I feel like I have a good sense of where we'll be aligned and a decent sense of where we'll split, but I could be wrong. I don't know. So we'll find out for sure. All right. Your number 12.
My number 12 is Justice League. The Joss Whedon directed 2017 theatrical release, despite it being directed by Zack Snyder. That's the greatest lie in America, Senator. So that's at the bottom. That is my number 12.
That is also my number 12. An easy number 12, by the way.
Easy number 12. But you know what's interesting is when that first came out, honestly, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, all right. Well, Superman's back, and I like these Flash and Cyborg characters here. I'm looking forward to seeing more movies with them. Wonder Woman is great as always. Like, okay, we're back at the time. And listeners, again, forgive us if we're gonna cover some of the same territory that you and I discussed ourselves on the DCEU episode. I feel like we will, but this also gives us an opportunity to expand on some of those conversations because there's only so much time today, and we got to get these in. Because 16 movies for that one, 12 movies for this one. So all that to say, at the time, I was like, oh, well, we're back. Little did I know that was the end. Like it was already over before it begun. And I was thinking like, oh, okay, well, they made some improvements here and there, but yeah, with time, I mean, this movie has aged so poorly. It would have aged poorly even without Zack Snyder's Justice League, I feel. But when you have that, it's just, what are we even talking about here, right?
No, but to your point, V. Ken Marion and we did a Patreon episode on Justice League years ago. I don't know if it wasn't even a Patreon episode. It was an episode of another podcast that I did years ago. And it was right after we saw the film, and we were pretty high on it for all the reasons you just articulated. So You're not alone. And I'm like, I hate that that's out there. I'm like, oh,
it's true. It's true because I'm like, okay, well, Superman, he's kind of more like his comic book self, and I'm sure we hit all the same points, and that's so interesting. And now it's strange to look at it here at the bottom of this list, and I'll take you back. I mean, I remember I went with a buddy, and the first shot of this film is Henry Cavill's CGI face, which we had all heard about.
Yep.
Right. We had all heard about the digital erasing of the mustache. And my friend goes, oh no, this is the first thing you see. And it really sets the tone, I guess, for better or for worse. And that is just, it's a travesty. And but it's so fascinating that this exists and Zack Snyder's Justice League exists. And I don't know about you. I haven't rewatched this since the Snyder Cut came out. And I don't know if I ever would. I mean, but I'm curious to kind of revisit it, knowing what it should have been now because it's been so long. So kind of that's where I am with it now. It's this curiosity that's like, I definitely, and I've said this before, that they should teach this in film schools, the difference between these two versions, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But the rewatchability or lack thereof, that by and large is why it's at the bottom of this ranking and why it was at the bottom of my DCEU ranking. Short of someone paying me to watch it or my son, when he gets older, being curious and wanting to watch, like I would never put this in again. It's a Frankenstein of a movie. It's a mishmash of styles. It's a perversion of the original vision. And here's the thing. If we had never gotten the Snyder Cut, if this was all that existed and all that we really knew for sure, of course, that would change the calculation here. But it's like now that we've actually seen what this movie was supposed to be, to me, yeah, there's no reason to ever go back to this. So that's why it's easily my number 12.
That's a great point about the rewatchability. Like there's so many factors you have to, not that these are some absolute lists, but we got to rank them. You got to pick difference makers, and that's a difference maker. Would you ever watch this again? No, that's where we are. But I mean, I would say if you do the math, Superman himself is in a greater percentage in this version than he is in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
That is true. And I don't want to spoil what's to come, but I did factor in, because when we ranked the DCEU movies, it was looking at that cinematic universe as a whole. And that was my analysis there. I guess what I'm trying to get at is just because I ranked certain movies a particular way in that other episode, it's not going to be exactly the same here because I'm really looking at it through the lens of a Superman movie. So
curious. I was curious about that, how that would shake out. This is the number 12 on our list, so I don't want to spend too much more time on it. I do just want to say there are a couple of things that I was like, oh, I like that better, just objectively. This is a hot take that I know we would probably disagree on. I think I like the Danny Elfman score better.
I knew you were going to say, I know you do.
I'm sorry. The Junkie XL, and I know that he had to redo it because he had plans and to use those themes for other things in the interim. And I that's just something in Zack Snyder Justice League that I thought was a little weaker. Superman having the red and blue suit at the end. I do like the black suit in Zack Snyder's, but I kind of think that final shirt rip, but like he's back. Let's have the red and blue suit. Just a couple of moments, totally not worth like just the film itself. But that little moment between Commissioner Gordon and Batman. He's like, playing well with others, and Aquaman, just like a bat, right? That's a nice little moment, right?
Sure. And Bruce talking to Alfred and saying Superman's more human than I am. Yeah. Sure. And we have to include that lest anyone think we're just being unnecessarily harsh. Yes, there are a few things in there where we find some value, but not to the point where it would prompt me to rewatch the entire movie.
No, absolutely not deal breakers whatsoever. Again, just curiosities.
Yeah. I mean, I literally typed it out as Justice League. I refuse to even refer to it as Justice League.
I mean, for the sake of referring to them as their proper theatrical names, I did call it Justice League here, but I always call it Justice League in my everyday life and on the internet too. So I'm right there with it. It's kind of perfect that Joss. It's like it fits so perfectly with Justice League. It's how could you not call it that? It's
I know, it's right there. All right, so our number 12s are the same, Justice League. Your number 11.
My number 11 is Superman 4: The Quest for Peace.
Ooh, okay.
Which might come as a surprise to people who know that I have this Superman 4 stand up in my office, and I love the Christopher Reeve films. And here's the deal, right? You gotta, when you're in these fandoms, you get in these like defensive loops about things, and you talk about how things. Oh well, if this hadn't happened, then it would be this. And they tried for that, and they got this instead. And I know that. Trust me, I am well aware there is a 45-minute longer cut, and this budget was slashed out from under it, and they had to make a lot of concessions for things. And was I think 89 minutes is the final 89 minutes is the final runtime of this film, which is come on, right? But look, y'all, it's not good. It's not good. I've enjoyed it. I'm gonna watch this movie more than most other movies in my entire life. That doesn't mean it's good. That means it's like a comfort movie for me. It's Christopher Reeve's final performance as Superman. He is A+ in it, as he is in all his films. There's some fun stuff in here. Gene Hackman, I've said that he's arguably, better like Lex Luthor here than he is in the other ones. But anyway, all that to say, it's my number 11.
Okay. I get it. And I think if I were to have done this list even like a year ago, I might have placed it somewhere similar to that. This one might shock you. It's my number 9. So
okay, I can see how it's your number 9. So you know what? And I started to talk about it there before my turn. So I apologize, Anthony. So.
No. That's you're good. You're good.
Right? I'm supposed to wait till it comes up on your list, right?
Oh,
that's how we.
No. We do it this way. Like whenever it comes up first, then we both talk. No. You're good. You're good.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I've already forgotten our format.
Maybe we should do it the other way because then. But no, it's fine. Let's do it like this.
Yeah,
so
okay.
Yeah, it's my number 9, and I readily admit that I am grading it on a curve. I'm grading it more for its ambition and its potential rather than the actual finished product, which maybe isn't the most fair thing. But I would still rewatch it before another entry in the Reeve series, which we're going to get to, and that says something.
Okay.
And look, when we covered it on the show in its own episode a little while back, I spent a lot of time with it and going through all those deleted scenes and photos of deleted scenes we've never seen. And I looked at all of that restoration work that editor Aaron Price has done that we talked about. And I saw the way in which some of those, the VFX were cleaned up. And like I said, maybe it's a little bit unfair because that's not what's actually in the finished movie, but it just kind of gave me a better sense of what the movie was going for and the potential that it had. And regardless of anything else, I do think that the idea explored here of Superman ridding the world of nuclear weapons was a worthy one. I don't know that the script and certainly the production, they were not up to the task of really bringing this to life, but the ambition and the idea were there. And one of the things that I was really honing in on when I went through the Reeve movies again were moments where you really saw that humanity, that fallibility. And there's that great scene with Superman and Lois on the balcony where he's like, Lois, sometimes I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And just seeing him wrestle with that decision, like those moments really went a long way for me. So yeah, that's why. And like I said, for me, it's more rewatchable than another Reeve entry that we'll get to shortly. So yeah, that's my number 9.
I'm just very torn on it because obviously I love the Christopher Reeve movies, as we'll see down the list. But I mean, that kind of almost makes it worse in a way. It's a double-edged sword where it's like you had greatness and this is where you ended up. So that hurts, but you're happy to have what you have left over because the whole cast is still there. They didn't recast anybody. I mean, Gene Hackman is back again. Gene Hackman himself came back for this, and I would argue he might be his best turn as Lex Luthor in this movie. He's definitely more like the comic book Lex Luthor here than he is in his other films, doing, nuclear missile schemes and growing supervillains. I mean, there's a guy in another costume Superman fights. I mean, it was a huge deal back then. I mean, what other kind of super villains is Christopher Reeve Superman fighting other than the Kryptonians, and they just have their their black outfits and Krypton. And I mean, it's an enjoyable comfort watch for me. And like I said, I wrote rewatch it forever and ever and ever. But I just cannot get past so many of the production values. Like you talk about film school with both Justice Leagues. You teach a film school class on, you show somebody Superman the movie, and then you show them Superman 4, because they do a lot of the same things. Like look at the fight between Superman and Lois. It's like, okay, here's when you have a budget, you have time, and then this is when you have nothing. And it's like even the sets, the wardrobe, the makeup, like even like you can just see the little things that how far they've fallen. And I'm sure a lot of people know this already, and they listen to your podcast and my podcast, but like this is the outliner. Like the Salkinds made 1, 2, and 3, and Supergirl, and then the Canon Film Group made this one. So that's why there's a different whole approach to it. So I struggle with that as a fan, like the behind the scenes versus the actual thing you got, and you have to judge things off the actual thing you got. But there we are. But I'm still glad it exists, even though it's so low on my list.
Yeah, like I said, for me, ultimately, I think it's the intent, ambition, and potential, and the few moments that I think legitimately worked that kind of carry the day for me a little bit, whether or not they should have. But that's where I land on it. All right, so that's your number 11. Mm-hmm. Oh man, my number 11. I was hoping this was going to be yours, so then it wouldn't seem as bad coming from me. Because I host a George Reeves rewatch podcast, but my number 11 is Superman and the Mole Men.
Wow. Okay.
So this was an hour-long movie that was made in 1951, directed by Lee Sholem and written by Robert Maxwell and Whitney Ellsworth. And essentially it was proof of concept, a pilot, more or less, for what would become Adventures of Superman. My understanding is they made a point to release it theatrically to recoup costs in case the TV show didn't move forward. We know that it did. Out of everything on this list, that might be the one that kind of the more casual fan has not ever watched. Mm-hmm. Or maybe if they did watch it, they watched it as the 2-part season finale of season 1 of Adventures of Superman. It was recut into those 2 episodes, was trimmed a bit here and there. They replaced the music to kind of make it feel more in line with the rest of the George Reeves series. I'm not going to recap the whole thing, but essentially you have these little people who dwell underground, and they come to the surface of this small town that's home to the world's largest oil drill. And the townspeople are freaked out, and you've got the leader of this mob who whips everybody up into a frenzy, and they try to track down these folks. And Lois and Clark are there reporting, and Superman has to intervene and essentially fight back the mob. And I think it does have a worthwhile message of tolerance and acceptance. But despite all of that, it's still limited in terms of its production capabilities and its scope. I think that's the other thing. When we look at all of the Superman movies, this one, in a lot of respects, kind of feels the least like one. It is certainly devoid of most of the trappings that we've come to associate with a Superman story. They're not in Metropolis at all. There's no Daily Planet. There's no Perry White or Jimmy Olsen. And this maybe is not fair to hold against it, but it feels like such an outlier compared to the rest of the George Reeves series, which was very much Metropolis and Daily Planet focused. So it feels like a bit of an outlier compared to the series and compared to the other movies that we're talking about. It's the first instance, though, of George Reeves and Phyllis Coates in those roles. It's definitely worth a watch if anyone has not watched it. But yes, it unfortunately landed where it did on my list. Where is it on yours?
Superman and the Mole Man is number 9 for me.
Okay.
So it's down here. It's down here. It's not too far off. I was very conflicted on where to put this as well, because it's like, you're right. It was made as a movie, but then it was made into a 2-part TV episode, and it obviously feels more like a 2-part TV episode, ironically, even though that's something it got turned into, it didn't originate from. But you got to judge these things on like when they were made, right? I mean, made in 1951. I mean, this is ambitious for then. This is one of the most serious, quote unquote, sci-fi George Reeves Superman gets to do. They do more silly things, as you are well aware in the show as it goes on. Takes place in Texas, so that gets some points for me because I live in Texas. I'm like, hey, Superman in Texas. When does that happen? So, and then I love George Reeves. I love Phyllis Coates as Lois Lane. I'm glad that they have a movie. I mean, like, if not for that, they wouldn't even be on this list or anything. So that's cool. But I like the message, right? It's an important message about the other and acceptance and mob mentality. Like, you're trying to say something, which I like. Now, I mean, there's a time and a place to just have fun popcorn entertainment, and there's a time and a place to have a message and a parable or an allegory, right? So that's not a prerequisite or anything, but I think that's an important part of. That's why this works. Without that, like, what is this? Like, oh, monsters run around in a town, right? So
right,
that makes the whole thing really.
Yeah. No, all good points for sure. And I know it's like, as I say, I'm like, oh man, the George Reeves fans, they'll come for me on this. I love the show. I love that iteration of the character, but yes, I only got so much out of the movie. Yet at the same time, like you said, credit where credit's due. And although he had the Kirk Allen theatrical shorts prior to this, I mean, this is the first long form live action Superman. And there's something to be said for that.
And when he flies, it's him. It's not a cartoon.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, this was clutch in its day. But yes, that's my number 11. All right. Your number 10.
My number 10 is Superman 3.
Oh, that's also my number 10.
Look at us. We're back.
Yeah. Well, funny enough. So our bottom 4 are the same, just slightly rearranged, which is largely what happened when we did our DCEU. Like, we weren't wildly apart anyway.
Right.
But yeah, you and I did a whole episode on.
We did.
Superman 3.
Everybody just go listen to that. You might ask yourself, why is 3 above 4? That's the eternal question for any Superman fan. Which is better, 3 or 4? I only half joke when I say that. I mean, I can't tell you how many discussions or message board threads are about this very thing, right? But for me, it's all about the production value. And also Christopher Reeve himself. Christopher Reeve, I mean, he brought it in Superman 4 as well. But in Superman 3, this guy was at the peak of his acting ability, his physical appearance. I mean, this is perfection. Like, as great as he looks in the first 2 films, he had really settled to the role here. With James Bond, they always say it's the 3rd film where they really settle in. Same thing for Christopher Reeve here. Now, it's not as good as the other 2. Obviously, it's this low on our list. The other 2 are not down here with this one. But I mean, he plays so many angles of the character, right? I mean, he plays Metropolis Clark, Smallville Clark, regular Superman, evil Superman. I love evil Superman. It's just a bizarre concept. But that maroon costume is cool. So all that, everything revolves around him, Smallville, Annette O'Toole, Lana Lang, Martha Kent herself from Smallville is here. I love their whole interplay. So there's so much great stuff here. There's a lot of nonsense, though, too, which really brings it down. All the Richard Pryor stuff, like, it just doesn't fit. The Ross Webster, although I have said that he is sort of he's a post-crisis Lex Luthor in a pre-crisis world. Very strange how that worked out. I bet some of those writers watched Superman 3 and incorporated some of that stuff. But yeah, all that just falls flat. The whole robot at the end, I mean, the cyborg is terrifying. You know, if you saw it at a young age, it terrified a lot of people. A lot of people can relate to that. That was certainly a hide behind the couch moment for me. But I mean, it's like this computer, and it's like it's not Brainiac, and it's not Bizarro, and it's all these not versions of things you would preferred seeing Superman fight in these movies. And then that just the comedy, I think, is what ultimately the through line that really sinks the whole thing. Like, just watch the opening sequence. That tells you all you need to know about the comedy in this movie, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the tone and the Gus Gorman, Ross Webster side of the movie really just brings it down. And I think that's what's so heartbreaking about it, is that the other half is great. Yeah. All the Smallville set scenes, having the character more in touch with his humanity and his upbringing, returning home. Like you said, everything with Annette O'Toole as Lana Lang, the junkyard battle. I mean, that's an iconic scene in the franchise and Superman movies generally. So I feel like we said at the time, there's half a movie there that's great. Unfortunately, it gets bogged down by the other half. And yes, overall, it's a far more polished, competently made film than 4. But that half that drags it down, for me, renders it less rewatchable than 4. And that's why I ultimately placed them the way I did. Also, again, I don't want to spoil my list, but when we went through the Reeve movies, I did share kind of how I broke them all down, and I didn't want to have it all just be kind of diminishing returns. So
Right.
I wanted to mix it up a little bit.
They pulled up from that nosedive. Look. You know, I understand the thinking. I do. But there you go.
All right, right on. Okay, so then we've covered our number 9s already. Yours was Superman and the Mole Men. Mine was Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. So your number 8.
You're going to make me say it, aren't you? You're going to make me say it first. My number 8 is James Gunn's Superman.
Oh. All right. I did not think it was, I knew it wasn't going to be in the top tier for you. I didn't know it would be this low, but hey, it's all right. It's your list. It's good.
What else is, look what else is ahead of this. I don't understand. What else do you want from me? So, do we do this now or later? What?
Oh man. You know what? Since maybe we break with our rule in this one instance, just because it's so recent. Like let's put a pin in that.
Yeah.
Should I say where it is on my list though? No, I'll save that.
Let's make it a surprise.
Yeah,
this is
it'll
fun.
be a surprise.
And look, just okay, everybody. Like everybody, calm down. All right. I don't. First of all, I don't hate any of these movies. All right. And like I said, I'm gonna watch 3 and 4 the rest of my life all the time. Right. So just because it's 8 out of 12 doesn't mean it's an F or that I hate it or anything. I liked it, just not as much as I wanted to, and I'll leave it there until we find it on your list, Anthony.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's funny because as of this recording, based on when we're doing this, we have not yet heard each other's episodes on James Gunn's Superman, and we've purposely kept our messages to a minimum about it. So we know generally how the other feels about it, but we haven't gotten into the particulars of it. So, okay, interesting. All right. So we'll put a pin in James Gunn's Superman. I'll wait until it comes up on my list, and then we'll really get into it more. All right, my number 8, this was hard for me. This was really tough, but I'll explain why, is the Donner cut of Superman 2. Is my number 8. So where is it for you?
That's my number 7.
Okay. All right, good. I don't feel as bad now. So the reason why this was so tough, because for the most part, I would say, and if you go back and check the tape, I've been pretty high on the Donner cut of Superman 2.
This surprises me. I know that you have said that you prefer this of the other Superman 2s, so this surprises me.
Well, this is one of those instances where perhaps I said that at one point. Maybe I've shifted a little bit. Here's the thing, and I'll keep this quick because this has come up multiple times. In fact, you and I did a whole episode comparing the 2 cuts years ago now. But I think in terms of a companion to Superman 1, I feel like the Donner cut thematically and narratively a fitting continuation of the first film. And I do prefer the more grounded, less campy, slapsticky tone of it compared to the theatrical cut, which of course was a mix of Donner and Lester footage. At the same time, and I really had to be honest with myself about this, right? There are certain things like the screen test during the movie.
Deal breaker.
Like removing arguably the best line of the entire series.
Deal breaker. I have a statue of this line behind me in my office. How dare you?
Yeah. I mean, the ending, which even in a vacuum doesn't work, but viewing it in tandem with the first movie is insane.
Deal breaker.
It's one of those things where it's a fascinating experiment. I'm really, really glad that Donner had the opportunity to oversee that in his lifetime. I'm glad it exists. I'm glad we got to see, okay, what was his actual plan? But if we are looking at kind of a watchable finished product, it doesn't get us all the way there. And this is where I really had to be honest. I think ultimately for me, it's those Jor-El scenes. That's what I find of greatest value, but that doesn't make a whole movie. And so I think for me, the Donner cut is mostly worthwhile as a vehicle to get those scenes, but I can't elevate the entire thing as much as I would want to. I welcome your thoughts on this.
Yeah, the Donner cut, it was the Snyder cut of its time, right? People had talked about it. I mean, the difference between those two, unfortunately, was 25 years had passed between the theatrical Superman 2 and the Donner cut of Superman 2. So you couldn't go film pickup shots and various things. You just had to piece it together. And it was just this mythical thing. for so long on on the internet or the Superman Cinema website that Cape Wonder has now absorbed, and made friends over there and learned so much about the making of these movies from them and their message boards. And it was just, that was one of the best things about Superman Returns, was getting Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut, because they needed that footage for Jor-El, and so that unlocked it all. We can talk more about that when Superman Returns comes up, maybe a little bit, but I love Superman 2, and you're gonna see how much I love it when we get down up on this list further. So because it is a variation of that love lifts it up maybe further than it should be. This is me. This is our list. I look around, everybody who can't see. I say, you can see. I love the Christopher Reeve Superman. I'm surrounded by memorabilia of this version of the character. So, there's even though it's a newer, oh God, can you believe that's 20 years old? We are so old.
I know.
I was like, even though it's a newer version. So, but I still have that nostalgia to it because it's connected to the franchise and a film in that franchise that I love so much. Yes, absolutely. The Jor-El stuff is A+. The serious tone, like again, film school, everybody, Superman film school. I should start the class myself. They have like 3 examples right here I could just go with. But if you compare the theatrical to the Richard Donner cut, little gags here and there, you trim them out, it just improves everything so much. I think in addition to Jor-El, I think the Metropolis battle is so much improved.
Yep.
In the Richard Donner cut, for example. So it's a tone thing. But then there's stuff the theatrical stuff does better, and we'll get down and talking to it. But it's still the same story. It's not like, Justice League versus Zack Snyder's Justice League, which, yes, is the same story, but told in such a radically different way. This is like, well, you switch out a scene here and there. And then as you went down the list, like, there's so many deal breakers for this. Like, it's unacceptable that they use that time reversal again. I will defend the time reversal in the first movie, and I will when we get there again in the list. But I cannot defend it here. And it's such an odd choice, and it's unfortunate that they did that, because I think the ultimate version of Superman 2 is in between the 2 cuts, and they just went too far into the and I get it. Look, Zack Snyder, like he said about Justice League, I would rather burn the film than use one frame of someone else's work. And Donner felt the same way, but unfortunately he just couldn't do it because he needed to use as much Richard Lester stuff as possible to fill in those gaps. And it's a piecemeal thing. It's a patchwork movie. But I still enjoy it for what it is, and I will continually rewatch it. I have like 4.5 Christopher Reeve Superman movies now, thanks to this. So I'm thankful for it.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? There is a lot of value there. I agree with you. I think the best version of Superman 2 is a combination. And to be fair, if I were to put my editor hat on and make that combined version, I'm pretty sure I would start with the Donner cut and then add from the theatrical cut. So there's a lot of value there. And I know we've already been talking about the Jor-El scenes, but Clark's side of that, what he voices, will there ever come a time when I've served humanity enough? It's like, man, like there was really, really something there. So great stuff. And if that's all we got from the Donner cut, is that we finally got to see those scenes, like it's worth it.
Yeah.
All right. So that was my number 8, your number 7. My number 7 is Superman Returns.
Okay.
Where does that fall for you?
That's my number 5.
Number 5. Okay. Well, do you want to take this one? Because I talked about Donner first. You want to talk about this one first?
Okay, sure. I'll talk about Superman Returns. Again, just it's connected to the Richard Donner cut in that way because they both came out at the same time. And what an exciting time, right? I have nostalgia for the build up for this, the release of that. I remember sitting in the theater for the first time and dun 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 dun, and you see the opening credits and the theme and say what you will about the movie. John Ottman, who's the editor, he's also the composer. Fantastic score, one of the best Superman scores. Fantastic stuff. There's a lot of good stuff in here. I like Brandon Routh. He had the unenviable task of not just succeeding Christopher Reeve, but literally playing Christopher Reeve, playing Superman. Like, what an impossible task, but he did a charming job. He's one of my favorite Superman Clark Kent actors to this day. I have gone back and forth about this movie. I came out of the theater. I'm like, we're back, A+, right? And then I'm like, oh no, this is very flawed. What were they thinking? And I'm like, oh, I can see what they were trying to do, but they messed up in a few areas. And so it's a real mixed bag. And unfortunately, that's where we're in this middle area right now. Like I said, the middle was hard for me, everybody. Remember that when you get mad at me about where I rank James Gunn Superman. The middle is very hard because I really like Superman. There's nothing. I'm hot take here. Perhaps the best live action Superman sequence is the plane rescue in this film. I've yet to see something, perhaps the helicopter save in Superman the movie, just an individual Superman save. Like, how do you top that? It's hard. I mean, it's immaculate. It's perfection. So there's a lot of praise, a lot of not praise here. The costume, not good. Carrying on, they had a great opportunity here to evolve the Gene Hackman Lex Luthor into the post-crisis Lex Luthor with Kevin Spacey, and they just said, "Nah, no thanks." I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, the story is set up for that," and they just chose not to do it. Kate Bosworth, who I do not, like, she's probably at the bottom of my lowest rankings, but I've kind of come to like be a little more fond of her performance. It's not, people like to throw her away as like the worst Lois, and she very well may be the worst Lois, but she was just miscast.
Yeah,
we cast a 21-year-old to be a mom of a 6-year-old. So all that to say, lots of stuff like that. But hey, Sam Huntington, favorite Jimmy Olsen, maybe. I love him. So, and he's the only movie he's in. This is right here.
I know.
So there's some scattershot thoughts about Superman Returns. I'm very conflicted on it. Again, it's Christopher Reeve adjacent, so that helps me. Like, so that's where I am.
Well, I guess I was the opposite of you, because I came out of that theater in 2006 really disappointed, and I
Okay.
I could not have been more excited going into it. And I know I've told this story before, but I got together with my buddies from high school and college. We had a barbecue beforehand. It was the summer after our first year of college. The barbecue, and we went to see it at the theater that is now our Alamo Draft House. So I still go to the same place, just different theater now.
Nice.
And I mean, I got everyone pumped for it. I'm like, this is going to be so good. And I remember as soon as that text came on the screen, I was like, oh no. And I came out, I was disappointed. The nice thing, I'm happy to say, and I've said it before, but my position on it has softened a lot over the years and upon rewatch and reconsideration. And there's a lot of great stuff. I mean, it's a beautiful looking movie. I agree about the plane sequence. James Marsden as Richard White, MVP, I think.
Yeah, good call. Good call. He's great in it.
And probably the biggest thing for me, and the reason why I was most excited to rewatch it a few years ago, and I know I say this all the time as well, but becoming a parent, the whole father-son angle hit me completely differently. And it's one of those things where I can watch that movie and get something out of it, even if it's just that. Right? When Superman visits Jason and he's delivering the speech that Jor-El had delivered, it gets me, right? I agree with you. It was a tough hurdle to clear for Brandon Routh and just for this movie overall. And to this day, I don't know. I'm a little split on this, because on the one hand, you look at all of the versions of a Superman movie we could have had at this point in time, and I don't know if we would have been better served by them. I mean, that's its own discussion. But when you kind of look at how far afield some of the other versions could have gone, I don't know. There's something kind of comforting that we ended up with something as kind of reverent as what we got, although arguably too reverent. And I feel like continuing the Reeve series is not a bad idea in and of itself. I don't know that it went far enough in terms of really pushing it forward, right? We got so many of those beats of the original movie repeated. I think we just needed to see more forward movement. And I think this could have been a different story.
Yeah, it's almost like a quasi reboot of the first one, right? Yep. It's like Lex Luthor land scheme, plane save with Lois Lane, Superman. It's a Kryptonite. Oh, there's water. He's going to drown. Like, it's different, but it's also very the same. Travel back from Krypton, like a crash in Smallville. Like, the beats are very, it's such an interesting, just it's a sequel, but it's a remake, but it's a quasi reboot thing, because it's like the term vague sequel was invented for this. And everybody's like, what does that even mean? Which version of Superman 2 is it after? Neither of them. It doesn't fit either version of Superman 2. That's what I've come to find my biggest hang up is, like, look, if you're going to do, this is the new Superman 3, fine, do it. Set it in the 80s. Have the same aesthetics, because this is not that world at all. And so that's why there's this huge disconnect where they're trying to carry on story points, but then it's like a totally different world, totally unrecognizable. It's not 1983 or whatever it should be. It's 2006. It's just so strange. Marlon Brando back as Jor-El. I mean, that's interesting though, because I mean, we have all this talk now about AI and resurrecting dead actors and that sort of thing. This is such an interesting, like, eye of the needle that they threaded here, because it's a dead actor, but it's a dead character already, and they're using recordings of that character who was dead in universe. So it's such a unique thing, right? That they chose to bring him back in that way. Because I mean, he's the only one who's not recast. Everyone else is recast, obviously. So, and then that, as I understand it, Bryan Singer wanted to use that footage, kind of helped unlock the Superman 2 Richard Donner cut footage in some capacity. Didn't do it all by itself, but it helped with that. So anyway, yeah, it's just a strange movie, man. It's we'll never see the likes of it again. Like it's a strange movie. And I too I'm glad it exists. And then you look at it versus all the other stuff we could have gotten, and some days I'm like, I don't know, it would have been cool to see Superman Lives. And I'm like, nah, that's crazy. I'm glad we got this instead. And who knows? This is what we got though. So here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, I mean, each time I've rewatched it, I've come around on it a bit more. So, okay. So actually, you know what, at this point, what I've been doing with our James Gunning for Superman event here, I've been spotlighting individual sponsors in each episode since we're doing so many in such a short amount of time. So since you are here on behalf of Always Hold On to Smallville, what do you want to tell folks about the show? I mean, first of all, on the show, on the record here, officially congratulations on concluding your series rewatch.
Thank you. It's quite an accomplishment. I never thought it would take this long, but it's very fulfilling to have finished the journey and have gotten so many congratulations and thank yous from people as I've been wrapping up. It's a great feeling, knowing that, you know what, you put a lot of work into this thing, you did it for fun. And, you know, of course, like, you know, you want to put out a good product, but you're just ultimately, we're talking about stuff we love with people we like. And then for have people listen. I mean, you know how it is. People listen, they write into you. It's a very humbling, overwhelming feeling when people are like, hey, I look forward to your podcast every week, and it helps me get through XYZ, a commute or a workout or even a tough time. And so like I'm kind of like basking in that right now, having received all these messages. But yeah, I mean, I started in 2016 and I thought this will take 3 years, 4 years. And here we are, 8-9 years later. And so to that point though, so we finished our episode by episode coverage. We covered every episode from the pilot to the series finale, with lots of Superman specials and other things in between. But that was the mission statement of the podcast. But it's not over, because there are books, there are comics, there's all sorts of other things to talk about, Smallville related. So even though the episode by episode coverage has ended, there's still Smallville to discuss. So there we are. And now I can finally watch Smallville like as a fan again. I would just watch in order, try to stay. I wanted to be on the same path again that I was on back in the day when it came out, week by week. So Smallville, my favorite show. I grew up with it. I was the same age as Clark Kent was on the show, and people are sick of hearing me say that, I'm sure. But that's a huge in for me for the show. I grew up with him in high school, and then unlike him, I did not drop out of college. I graduated from college. But to have that show as a companion for 10 years meant a lot to me. And now to have this podcast as a companion for me and then a companion for listeners means a lot too. So that's always on the Smallville. So if you like Smallville, check it out. We talk about every episode. So go pick out your favorite one and start there.
Yeah. I mean, look, there are always, and this is a great thing, I mean, there are always people who are starting the show, the actual Smallville series, for the first time, and now they can follow along with the podcast, which is cool. And like I said to you, I'm excited for you to cover, like you said, the books, the novels, the comics, because a lot of that, with the exception of season 11, is new to me. So that'll be kind of another aspect of my own Smallville fandom to explore. So yeah, everyone keep your Always Hold On to Smallville subscription active. There'll be more stuff coming. But no, that's quite an accomplishment. It's very, very cool.
Thank you.
All right. So we're halfway through here. So, okay. You're number 6.
Well, should halfway through, should we read off where we are halfway down?
Should we? Okay, go for it. So you want to do your bottom half.
Okay. So number 12, Justice League. Number 11, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Number 10, Superman 3. Number 9, Superman and the Mole Men. Number 8, James Gunn's Superman. Number 7, Superman 2, The Richard Donner Cut.
All right. And for me, number 12, Justice League. Number 11, Superman and the Mole Men. Number 10, Superman 3. Number 9, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Number 8, Superman 2, The Donner Cut. And number 7, Superman Returns. All right. Your number 6.
My number 6 is Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition.
Okay.
Well,
we both have a Snyder entry for number 6, but I'll get to mine in a minute. But BVS falls at number 4 for me. Not that far apart, but it's my number 4. But yeah, take it away.
So, Superman is probably, of the things I like in this film, he's probably the thing that I like the least in it, because I love Ben Affleck's Batman. I love Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. Like these are revisit this film for those things, if nothing else. I mean, it's incredible. Like, I mean, like the moments of Wonder Woman showing up, saving the day, and her theme. I mean, that is unmatched in most other superhero movies. It's incredible stuff, right? I mean, just coming out of nowhere and just taking over this DCU franchise between this and Wonder Woman, and what a 1-2 punch for her. And rewatching it, I have come, like, again, been on a journey, right? I watched it, I was like, I don't know. There's time when I'm like, yeah, they really messed up there, and I'm like, I don't know. Now I kind of like this stuff now. So like, especially for me, I'll tell you what the key to me liking more now is accepting Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
Yes,
that was a huge thing for me. This is not my ideal Lex Luthor, right? Like, I'm not gonna like pitch this as the blueprint for Lex Luthor, but there's substance here. There's stuff going on. Like, the writing is layered. His performance is quirky. So maybe it's sometimes too quirky. I think maybe it's his hair people can't get past. He's got this long red hair. It looks kind of silly. And Jesse Eisenberg, he's like a wiry guy, but like, look, he's a great actor and he's doing something here. And I respond to it now. And I've joked that if I were Lex Luthor, I'd probably be this kind of Lex Luthor. So maybe that's why I've come around to him. But yeah, I mean, now Superman, I feel, is underserved in the film. He doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but again, the Ultimate Edition, everybody, that is what is so catastrophic of the theatrical version, because you know what? Most people out there, they're not going to go buy the Ultimate Edition and watch it if they thought the theatrical had potholes and didn't make any sense and was dumb or whatever, right? Because you have what am I always talking about on my podcast that I want to see in Superman movies? Clark Kent going and doing investigative reporting stuff. And you know what? This might be the only movie where Clark Kent goes and does investigative reporting stuff, right? I mean, he's out there looking after the Batman, the escalation of like, oh, I want to go write about the Batman. He tries to, nobody wants him to. And that woman whose husband dies in prison, she's like, this guy only responds to a fist. And so that's why he escalates to Superman going to confront Batman. So like, that journey is good. And I got to tell you what, and the one thing I've been consistent on in this movie is that opening 10 minutes is like one of the greatest openings to any movie. It's incredible. Like, you just to see, but it's Bruce Wayne, man. I mean, he comes in out of the helicopter. He's running into the debris to save a kid. It's incredible stuff. And so, like, I mean, to me, this sold me on Batfleck, and anyway, all that to say, like, there's so much good here, and there's some frustrating stuff too. Like, Doomsday doesn't look great. I feel like he was rushed. I wish we could have built up to the death of Superman more. Things like that. I think, unfortunately, like, Lois Lane gets progressively less to do now. And this one, she is still doing her investigating, especially in the Ultimate Edition about the bullet and all that stuff. But I mean, that's, and then just, I don't know, like, I still can't get over they killed Superman in his second movie. Like, that's a miscalculation, I feel. And I feel like a lot of that's a domino effect of where we are today. So there's a lot I really like about this movie, but a lot of stuff I'm still like, I don't know, but that's where I am. So that's why it's right in the middle. Right in the middle of number 6. Conflicted as ever about it, but there it is.
No, man, I hear you. Well, I'm glad though that your appreciation for it has grown. I mean, I had a similar experience, with it as well. And now really it is one of my favorites. Like I said, so much so that it is my number 4. And that means it comes ahead of certain things that might be surprising. But to be honest, it's only not higher because it's Batman v Superman. And while I did enjoy the treatment of Superman, I know many will disagree, but still, he had to share the spotlight. So this is kind of going back to what I was saying before, where in a ranking of Superman movies, this is, but he's sharing the top billing. So that's probably a key reason why it didn't rise even higher. But nah, man, I'm a big fan and defender, as you know. I will agree with you. I still don't like the design of Doomsday or those energy blasts.
Bizarre.
Yeah. I mean, whether they should have gone that far in that movie, debatable. I mean, the whole notion that we go from, it was on my world is dead, to you are my world, and sacrificing his life for a planet that has doubted him. There's something powerful about that, but it's awfully quick to get there. So I do understand that. But no, overall, man, it's just like the whole montage of the saves juxtaposed with the talking heads on TV questioning who he is, his role in the world, and this notion of like, well, what if he's just a guy who's trying to help, right?
Yeah.
The scene with Jonathan where he envisions his father, that always gets me. I love Ghost. I love Ghost Dad.
it hits some good emotional beats. right? But I'm so always like ideologically opposed to people just manifesting ghosts because Smallville Ghost Dad is so infamous, and also we've had that same scene on Smallville many times, right?
Yeah, I know.
Of that as well. But like you're a father now. I understand that whole other emotional cord that I don't have yet. So that definitely would hit on that front.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Plus, I always look at it too as I don't look at it as literally a ghost. I feel like this is a conversation that maybe they had at some point, and he's just kind of remembering it. So
the way it's shot is smart because like he starts out like not in the frame, and then Clark turns, and then they do a cut, and they violate the 180 rule where like Jonathan is where Clark was, and they cut wide, and he's gone. So I'm like, if you're gonna do Ghost Dad, that's the way to do it. Take notes, Smallville.
Yeah,
he's not some guy that can hug you and your mom, but he's dead and change clothes to be at your wedding. Okay. So.
Yeah. No, but I mean, and I've loved Batfleck from the jump, and
it's incredible.
And I really bought into this tension between them, and I love the journey that he goes on from the beginning. That son of a bitch brought the war to us. To I failed him in life, I won't fail him in death. The whole funeral sequence that gets me. To have the world mourning, the throngs of people, but then the people who actually knew him gathering for this modest ceremony in Smallville. There's so much about it. I mean, I could go on and on. I have gone on and on, but
I'll tell you, if this was movie 5 or 6, I'm like, all right, but it's like, why are we so, and we rushed through all this, and now it's over, and now it's so, look at Perry White, and everybody knows he's Superman now. And by the way, Lawrence Fishburne is great in this. Yeah. By the way, he's one of my favorite Perry Whites, for example. But just everybody, like, you cannot go back to the status quo of Superman and the Daily Planet and Clark Kent after this. You can't do it. Although in both cuts of Justice League, Clark's walking around on the street with his glasses. I want to know how we got there. But I don't know. That's where I am.
I know. Well, it's not dissimilar from the way the comics handled it, where Clark Kent is presumably. Rubble. Yeah, I mean, that out of all the things, I could get past that. And yes, Clark is the reporter. I mean, I don't want to take us too far afield, but I was thinking about this. I feel like if you had to pinpoint like where things really fell apart for the DCEU, and I know people will have a bunch of different answers, but I have to imagine that the studio insisting on trimming a half hour from that movie, I just, I feel like even if it had been the 3-hour cut, I know you still would have had mixed reactions, but it's like, I didn't have a great reaction to the theatrical cut. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't totally track, and you don't have Clark as the reporter. You don't see how much he cares in that context. I mean, they cut the scene of him carrying bodies out of the Capitol building. So you watch the theatrical cut and it's like he just flew away, but it's like, no, he was there. Like, you see how much he feels. So it's just one of those things. It's like, maybe that's not
Superman
the moment.
Shoot those people in the desert. I mean, that's what people are joking about after the thing. Like, all these jokes and all the piling on the internet is so based off this compromised version of the film, and so it's incalculable damage, I think, that it caused.
Yeah, and I don't think they ever really recovered from that. And
but they got those extra screenings in, Anthony. Yeah. They got those 2 extra screenings in a day. It was totally worth it.
I hope that was worth it for them. And yeah, Eisenberg, is he my platonic ideal of Lex Luthor? Not necessarily, but he works for me in this. I'll take that rooftop scene all day.
You know what? I appreciate Eisenberg a lot more now after seeing James Gunn's Superman. We'll leave it there for a minute.
Okay.
We'll leave it there for a minute.
All right. So look, BVS, that's a tough, I know a lot of people disagree, but man, that's my number 4. Okay. So we started, that's your number 6. My number 6 is Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Okay.
Now, where does that fall on your list?
I kind of went by our other DCEU rankings. So that's my number 3.
Number 3. Okay. For me, look, and when we did our DCEU rankings, it was my number 1, right? Mm-hmm. I love it.
It was my number 1 as well. So do the math, guys. Go pause now, listen to that podcast. You can figure out what our other rankings are.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love it. I've always talked about just kind of how fulfilling that viewing experience was. It was great to see this movie in all its glory with all the slow-mo. I didn't mind it. And here's the thing. It's like, it gave us a number of Superman moments that are among my favorite Superman moments that walk through the ship. It's time, son, fly. Reuniting with Martha and Lois, not impressed. Great kicking Steppenwolf's ass, even though then it really is overkill when Steppenwolf is down and he's continuing to pummel him.
He visioned his ear off.
But there's some great Superman moments, but the reason why I put it at number 6 is like there's just not enough Superman in it for me to elevate it higher. That's really the only thing.
It's like, is this a list about Superman movies or movies Superman is in? Look, it's subjective, and we're talking about it, so that's where we are. I know I feel that because I'm like, because I rewatched Zack Snyder's Justice League. I shouldn't have rewatched the Zack Snyder movies before James Gunn Superman. That was a bad idea.
I think that was a bad. When you told me you were doing that, I mean, I admired it. It's funny. We talked about this off mic, but when you first were telling me that you were rewatching them, like I just had a brain fart and I forgot we were doing this episode. Yeah. I'm like, oh, good for you. I'm like, that's cool. And then you're like, but I'm saving my thoughts. I'm like, saving them for one. I was like, oh yeah, we're doing this episode. Yeah. I debated it. I really debated it, but I was getting the sense from your rewatch that maybe it wouldn't serve me well for the new movie. So I'm actually glad I didn't.
Yeah, because he's in. The Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's basically 7 parts. It's a 6 part in the epilogue, right? And Superman's like in the last 2 parts of it, right? But I made like all the things you mentioned, all the emotional moments as well. Cavill gets a bad rap. I think he's just a boring guy. Like, no, he actually rewatching DVS. He actually put, the Clark Kent reporter. It's not Christopher Reeve by any means, but it is a little different. He's doing something a little different. His glasses are very big, which I respect. Anyway, you mentioned the scene with Martha and Lois in the field. Like that's even when I saw it in the trailer, I was like, oh, that's like just him hugging his mom and his wife. I'm like, that's so emotional, But him kicking the Justice League ass is great. I love that. I feel like Superman. We're gonna get into this. Superman, like I'm so tired of him just getting beat up all the time, not respected by anybody. And when you can see him, just like when they all try to come after him, he's like, "You're nothing." Like when even in Justice League, right? The moment where Superman sees Flash, that was a just standout moment where the eye moves. He's like, "Oh no!" Right? And that moment is great here. Him just Wonder Woman's like this big badass character. And she's like, oh, don't make me do this. And he's like, I can fly. You can't. You're dead. I love him just laying waste to the Justice League. Now, Zach, you say, I thought you didn't like evil Superman. Yes, but this is like one sequence. Give me a break. Okay, he's back from the dead. I think it's fair to have a little fun like that. So that was great to see. And then, of course, him just showing up and kicking ass at the end. Now, there is an ideological thing of like Superman was hope. And I'm like, well, everybody kind of hated him. I don't know. Like, I don't know if that actually jives with what they had set up. Like, that's a conversation to have, I guess. Cause like, man, he was my hero and the world, he's a beacon of hope. I'm like, I don't know if that like that Superman, like the pop culture Superman, this Superman, I don't know. And that's what they're playing off of, having his absence cause all this darkness. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I think, it's a different approach than we've seen before. I think a lot of it really hinges on his self-sacrifice, right? I think that's what inspired a lot of this hope. Unfortunately, like it reminds me of that line from Infinite Crisis when Batman's like, the last time you inspired anyone was when you were dead, which obviously there is this sick burn, but I feel like that's kind of what's at play here because while Superman is active in terms of what we see for the most part, although, you do have the people who really put him on this pedestal and see him as this god, right? As there would be people. Right. But it seems what we see a lot more of and hear a lot more of are the people questioning him and what role he should serve. But I think it really is the fact that he gave his life for them that really inspired a lot of this. So, I agree. I think it is different than what we typically would associate with him as the symbol of hope. But I think a lot is kind of riding on that for better or worse. But I think that's kind of what you get. But yeah, it's great, man. It's soulful. It's, just talking about the movie as a whole. I love that you just settle in and we get as much time with all of these broken characters who come together. It's unlike anything else, and it still remains one of my favorite movie experiences, certainly in the DC space.
Yeah, just a couple of stray thoughts then on this as we keep moving down the list. But like Cyborg, what an incredible! Like I got emotional watching his scenes in this film. Like when he's helping that single mom. That's like, oh man, that's there's many ways to be a hero, and that's one way to be a hero. What he's doing, right? And then his whole family journey. He's like, I'm not broken and I'm not alone. I'm like, oh my, how dare you cut that out, Warner Brothers? You cut out that entire subplot. How dare you? So he's just fantastic in there. And then of course, look, you and I like the Snyder movies. They got cut short, but you know what? We have 10 hours if you add up, all 3 of these movies. So it's a good run, it's Zack Snyder's Justice League is a little too long, right? Like watching it as an editor, I'm like, okay, I don't need people singing about Aquaman, and I don't need this and that. I would actually edit out the entire Flash sequence where he meets Iris West. That just, it's kind of superfluous. Anyway, all that to say, I know why it is the way it is because it was like, we're going to do a 6-part miniseries. And he's like, okay, well, here it is. And I'm sure if they told him, hey, make a 3-hour movie, he could have done that too. Yeah. And last thing I'll say is, had they released this 3-hour and 10-minute movie in 2017, we'd be looking at a whole different DC universe right now. I feel like people will respond to this and got him back on track because there's a lot of levity in this as well, a lot more so in the other 2 movies, and that's what people always want. They want their levity, and there's more of that in here as well. So there you go. And I said that was done. One last thing, it's like the Lord of the Rings of the DC movies, I think, like especially with that flashback with Darkseid. See Darkseid fighting a Green Lantern. When are you going to see that ever? I mean, it's amazing stuff. Anyway, it's great.
Yeah, well, and Darkseid is in this. It's to your earlier point, when you look at the 2 cuts of Superman 2, right? Yes, the things you see things play out slightly differently, but they're the same beats and the runtimes are very close to each other. But here, like you said, I mean, and Cyborg, I think, is a perfect kind of encapsulation of what a different movie it is and how much more depth you get. And it's like I had a completely different view of that character and his story from watching the Snyder cut than I did before. So yes, the cuts are similar in the broadest of senses that they're going up against Steppenwolf and all of that. But yeah, I mean, it's so much more involved, and a big favorite. Even though it's only number 6, but like I said,
my number 3.
Your number 3, yes. Okay, so we already had your number 5, which was Superman Returns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think this will I know this will disappoint you, but my number 5, Superman 2.
Okay.
Where did that fall on your list?
That is my number 2.
Number 2. Okay. I love Superman 2, right? It's it's classic, it's iconic, it's fun. Him giving up his powers, the battle with Zod and Non and Ursa, tricking them in the fortress, all the Niagara Falls stuff, tripping into the fire. Like, it's great. It's a lot of fun. I think for me, and I'll toss it to you in a second, because I think your experience with it is different. It's like, I mean, I watched it as a kid, and it's not like, oh, it made no impression, but I don't know, for whatever reason, I can't really pinpoint why, it's just never occupied that profound a space in my fandom. And it's even weird to be saying this. I mean, it's number 5. I mean, it's up there for me, but it's just like, it just doesn't hold that space that I think it does, like for you and for certain other fans, but I enjoy it a ton.
Well, I mean, I grew up watching this on VHS over and over again. I wore a Superman costume, and so it's burned into my brain. Like, I didn't need to rewatch these for this because these are burned into my brain. These Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I would say that was the best. It would be number 1 for me when I was a kid, but and then you get older, and not only do you kind of learn about the behind the scenes, you start to see the seams of the movie, and then you like realize, like, oh, the other one might be better. But anyway, I'll have to say, like, Superman 2 is just such a fun, like you said, it's just a fun, but serious, but also like self-aware. And it's like a, tongue in cheek, wink of the eye kind of approach to these characters. And if you're going to do that, I mean, it helps that it came out in the 80s because that was such the era of that. And I think that's a problem now when we try to recapture that. I mean, you can't, like Wonder Woman 1984, for example, people said, oh, it's like the old Christopher Reeve movies. And I'm like, how dare you? How dare you say that is that? That is not the same thing. But, Clark Kent is such a, we talk about Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent. He's in this a long time. I mean, as, oh, hello, Mr. Wayne, Mr. White, like him and Lois go to this Niagara Falls thing. So you get to know those characters and you get to see their relationship and see that evolve. And I think that's very important for these versions of the characters. So I also think that, yes, there's a little too much comedy with the Richard Lester stuff. But if you look at the end of Superman 2, like, yes, the memory kiss is like, well, what, he can do that now? But I mean, he can do all kinds of crazy new stuff in these movies, right? So, but that's a great emotional scene before that, though. Right, Lois is crying, and he's like, I like worrying about you. She's like, will you stop? Like, that's an amazing emotional, very adult scene, very mature scene. So it's not just all a bunch of bunch of silliness. I think maybe people's pop culture memory, writes it off that way. But even the Paris save, right? I mean, think about that. Take out the Paris thing, but entirely, his just shirt rip to get there is like the most iconic shirt rip of all time in anything. Because I mean, to me, that's an important aspect of any Superman movie is him changing into Superman. You see the transition. I mean, that's iconic, So credit to them for like knowing what we know now about how this movie got so messed around. Credit to them for coming out with this, I mean, just as a final product. And I too love the Jor-El scenes, but I will say, I find Clark in the Fortress, going back to get his powers back, more powerful here. At least Christopher Reeve's performance, anyway, because it's in the way it's lit, like it's all dark, and he's like, "Father, mother," like nobody's there, like it just he says less, but it kind of you feel more just how desperate he is. And so again, film school, everybody, just compare these two things. It's so interesting, but it's hard to say like, yeah, give me the version without Marlon Brando, but yeah, give me the version without Marlon Brando. Like this is my number 2. Like like it's like you said earlier, those are great scenes to have, but like the ultimate version would just be this with those scenes in it, really, for me. But there you go. There's a lot of thoughts about one of my favorite movies of all time. I've probably watched this movie more than almost any other movie in my life, so I got a lot to say. So.
No, fair. And yeah, like I said, it just never made that indelible an impression on me. Although, I mean, in fairness, I think historically I would have said and have said that was my favorite of the Reeve series. But I think now we'll get to it, but I've had more of a journey with Superman the movie, and my respect and admiration for that has just grown so much that it's supplanted this one. But yeah, definitely fun. It's a great sequel, right? Where you really can move forward with these characters and spend more time and take them to new places. And look, if I've had kind of a global issue with the Reeve films that I've largely, kind of gotten past, but is that he felt more removed, more of the God among men. But this one gets right into that, and he gives up his powers, and he makes a severe miscalculation. He really messes up. I wish we had had more time to explore that period there. I know it wasn't necessarily set up for that, but I always would have loved a bit more there. Look, Terrence Stamp, iconic. Those villains are great, but it's still pretty one note in terms of what they're all about. So they're just instances where I feel like I would have wanted a bit more, but certainly for the time, definitely, it's a ton of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Earl, would you care to step outside? One of the most iconic lines in movie history.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and the last thing I'll say about it is, unlike Justice League, and look, I mean, now we've seen both cut, but I think even before we had seen it, right? Like you could tell, like it doesn't. Although I don't know if I'm really being honest, and I go back to when I watched Justice League for the first time, I wasn't that dialed into it. But I guess my point is, I feel like with Superman 2, even though you have two different directors' footage at play here, it worked together certainly far better than we saw in the Justice League situation, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I feel like maybe it's just the fandom now. I feel like people are rediscovering and reaccepting the theatrical version now, because when the Donner cut came out, people already just disown this version. Like, let me throw this disc away. Like, we're going to do what we want to do about the theatrical cut of DVS. And I don't think that's the case, because if you remember years ago, this wouldn't be the case now, but when they had the top 10 sequels better than the original, like Superman 2 would always end up on those lists. And I feel like for a long time, and now it's suddenly like this movie that nobody wants to talk about. But anyway, I'm glad both versions exist. Yeah. I'm glad we have both.
Okay. So that was my number 5. Well, I know what your number 4 is. I can by process of elimination here, but go for it.
Man of Steel is my number 4.
Okay.
All right.
So Man of Steel, this was when I said, when we got to the top, it was tough, but I had to go with my gut. Man of Steel is my number 1. All
right.
Yeah. But here, you take it away first. Your number 4.
Oh, okay. Well, now I feel bad taking it away first if it's your number 1. But
no, it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, Man of Steel. Look, I've going this list was tough for me. Like, I've gone back and forth between. I feel like Superman Returns and Man of Steel are kind of both occupy the same level of my fandom, and like I like them about equally because they couldn't be more different from each other, and they speak to different things, right? But ultimately, what I found was, I think, and it speaks to the subjectivity of the rules of our list here. Superman Returns to me might be a better Superman movie, but I think Man of Steel is a better movie. I think Man of Steel has a clear vision. It locks you in from the beginning. I mean, just again, Zack Snyder, a visionary, visual storyteller. Just the epic scope of Krypton, and the destruction at the end, and I'm so locked into just the Krypton stuff. I mean, like Russell Crowe, incredible. Jor-El, Michael Shannon, this guy is on another level. I mean, he's my best villain of the DCEU as far as I'm concerned. We never had a bad Zod. I mean, I love Terrence Stamp as General Zod. Like you said, he is kind of one dimensional, but he is iconic, right? And so, totally different approach, but totally valid as well. And this is it's a very focused story about this guy's journey to figure out who he is, and there are some missing pieces of it for me. Like where's like the big Superman save? Like if they had the Superman Returns plane rescue in this movie, then I think, oh, well, this might be number one for me even, right? If they had done that, because I know I walked out of the theater and I was like, it's like they put Superman 1 and 2 in a blender and came out with something awesome. Like I was like A+ for me back in 2013, because there is so much of those first two films in this one. They borrow a little bit from Batman Begins with that whole flashback structure, which I don't know if that's good or bad. Like I know they just didn't want to do the chronological start to finish again, but it had been 30 years. Maybe they should have. I don't know. But I know that's why it's here, because Chris Nolan is involved, and like, let's make Batman Begins for Superman. And that's what this is. And for the most part, they do a really great job. I am so tired of the discourse about Jonathan and the tornado and Superman killing Zod's neck. To me, those are on like, why didn't Rose move over on the door in Titanic, and why did Jack drown? Like that's where I am with those arguments. I'm so tired of them. No, because because that's all people want to talk about with these movies now. And so I think you lose the forest for the trees when you just fixate on those things and make jokes about it and blah, 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 blah. I'm so tired of it. So that's what I'll say about that. And have I ever been more hyped for a sequel than we get to the end and finally he's Clark Kent with the glasses and he says, "Welcome to the planet," and he smiles, and I'm like, I can't wait for my Man of Steel 2. And of course we got BVS, so that took its own path. But those are my scattershot thoughts here for you, Anthony.
Right on. I mean, yeah, this is another one that I had a journey with. I did not come out very hot on this movie.
Man,
at the
you
time.
Just come out hating this movie.
Well, that's what I'm saying with Returns and Man of Steel. Like I went in, I don't know, expecting one thing and not getting it, and really kind of having a hard time. But when I look at the journey I've had with this movie, it's the one that perhaps I've watched the most. It's certainly the one I have thought about the most, talked about the most, and that has stuck with me the most. Mm-hmm. And that's undeniable. And I mean, I guess that could be a bad thing depending on how you feel about it. But no, for me, I think overall it's been a positive, productive thing. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about it, but whether Superman should be deconstructed like this on the big screen, people will have different answers. But if you're going to do that, like if you're going to remove the fundamental assumptions about who he is and why he's going to do what he's going to do, I think you got a really interesting story. And I think that's what this delivers. I'm with you. And this I've always been consistent about, even when I was a little mixed on the movie at the beginning. But far and away my favorite iteration of Krypton, and the first time that I really, really felt locked in to the Krypton part of the story. It's also the first depiction of Zod that like really resonated with me, in the sense that I was like, oh, I get what this guy is about in a really, really compelling way. That's beyond this thirst for power, but we really went beyond that. And look, I love an origin story. I mean, Birthright is my favorite comic book version of it, and there are definitely elements of it here. And so to follow him on this journey, this quest to find out where he comes from, and to not have his choices and actions being automatic, and to, I know people will roll their eyes, but to place him in a real world context. And I'm like, how, I think this movie did a good job of showing like what a big deal it would be if this individual existed, and what a huge step it would be to come forward. And I mean, there's just so many moments. I mean, when I think about just kind of emotional responses, I mean, the scene with young Clark and Jonathan, in the storm cellar, "Can I just keep pretending I'm your son? You are my son. but you have another father who gave you another name. He sent you here for a reason. And even if it takes you the rest of your life, you have to figure out what that reason is. I mean, stuff like that really gets me. And then when you get to, all the Russell Crowe stuff and those speeches to adult Clark as he's learning his origins, not my favorite Lois or Lois and Clark chemistry, but that scene in the desert where she apologizes. She's like, or he says, thanks for believing in me. And she's like, it wasn't enough. And he's like, well, it was to me. Like that moment, man. And look, as far as those big moments that people like to talk and joke about, right? And we know the people, like when we ultimately post our graphics for this episode, we know the exact people who are going to make those same snide remarks about it. I've been going on enough. The last thing I want to say, though, on the note of the tornado specifically, because this was funny. This goes back to what you were saying before about like how our positions can change over time. This is actually kind of the opposite of that. Mm-hmm. I thought I had a big breakthrough when we did our last Man of Steel episode, because I went on this whole thing about how, it's always been hard to kind of reconcile Clark not saving Jonathan. But now as a dad, and there you go again, but now as a dad, it's like this notion that Clark trusted his dad that much, right? And as a parent, I hope my son trusts me that much, that even if it was that kind of situation where I was like, you got to let me go, it's okay, I would want him to trust me that much. But it's so funny. This came up in Facebook memories. Like it was 11 years ago. One of my buddies posted something about Man of Steel. And we had this whole back and forth about the tornado scene. And I articulated basically that exact thing 11 years ago. And I was like, wait a minute. Have I been okay with this for that long? Apparently so.
Subconscious has come back around.
Yeah.
I know, because that ties into the themes of the whole thing, right? About the world being ready or not. And that moment, Jonathan was like, hey, we're not ready yet, right? And I think, to me, that is that the Man of Steel poses a lot of interesting questions. And I think it doesn't answer a couple of them. Like, I guess BVS does answer that for you, I guess, with everybody's reaction to him. But like, I wanted to see like his reveal to the world and people's response to him then, because it's very understated. I mean, you think about Superman the movie, it's a huge save when he shows up in the costume for the first time. Here, he's just floating above the military, right? But I like that authoritative Superman. He's like, don't play games with me, General. And even at the end, I love one of my favorite scenes. He crashes the satellite. He's like, are you stupid? That's an $8 million satellite. He's like, it was. Like, I love how he can do, like, he's not being a jerk. He's just being like, he's flexing his authority or not authority, but his power, and like letting them know that they don't have authority over him, So I think a lot of that stuff gets lost on people when they're talking about these movies with him. So yeah, there are many facets to Superman, right? He's a character who's been around for 80 years, and the Henry Cavill, if there's a Venn diagram between Henry Cavill and Christopher Reeve, it's a very small sliver, and that's fine because you have that over here and this over here, and I don't need them to be exactly the same to appreciate them for different reasons. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. So Man of Steel, your number 4, my number 1. I had to give it to Man of Steel in the end. All right, so your number 3 we already had, which was Zack Snyder's Justice League. All right, my number 3, we've made it here.
Oh, here we are.
James Gunn's Superman.
Okay.
It's not number 1 or 2, so
there's that.
But yeah,
we both only seen it once as of this recording, by the way.
Yes.
So these are fresh memories. You remember all the times we have said already, like, I walked out of the theater and I felt this way. That's the area we're in right now.
Yeah, for sure. And so much so, by the time people hear this episode, I will have seen it for a second time. So I don't know. It might change. But here's the thing, and people will have already heard more discussions from each of us on our shows about it. Right. But I had a very positive experience. I enjoyed the movie. I thought it had heart. It was fun. It captured the core of the character, this idea of him trying to be a good man in this world that's conspiring against him. It was fast paced. It tracked. I didn't feel like it was too busy. I felt like we got enough of the Justice Gang characters and whatnot. I felt the Daily Planet crew was woefully underserved. That was a big disappointment. Clark the reporter, I really thought we were getting a lot more. So it's not a slam dunk A+ across the board. There are things that I would have done differently, but I had that feeling that I had always wanted to have in one of these movies where I just sat there and I had a good time with it. And I think a big part of that was managing those expectations going in. And we talk about like Superman movie rankings. And I said this in our first episode about it that people have already heard, but it's like, I mean, this was full on Superman, like with all the trappings, right? The fortress, the robots, the Kents, the crypto, the planet, like all this stuff where normally in these adaptations, film and TV, there's always something that's held back, right? For some reason, but I just felt like we got the world, we got all the pieces there, and there's a lot of potential. So that's why it lands at number 3. I will, this really is the last thing, but coming out of it, I was really excited and had a great time watching it. But I did have to check myself and say, okay, let see how you feel. And thankfully a little time has passed now. And this is kind of where I landed on it. And do I think over time this will sit with me as much as Man of Steel, for example? I don't know. I don't think so. And that's probably why it's not even higher on the list. So, but anyway, let me welcome your thoughts now.
So you're number 3, my number 8. Look, this is a brand new movie. I think we could talk maybe a little longer about this one if you want.
Sure.
A little back and forth. I would love to hear some of your counterpoints to my points here. But first of all, I think David Cornswet did a great job. I wanted more Clark Kent. I was disappointed we didn't get more. I think hypno classes are the dumbest idea ever. Mm-hmm. And why even bring it up when we're only going to see him in 2 scenes with glasses anyway? Bizarre. I don't understand it. And if you're going to do hypno glasses, I'm kind of shocked James Gunn, has, comedy on the brain. Why don't we see a point of view of someone seeing these hypno glasses and seeing a different, like here's, and I mentioned this in my podcast too. Will Reeve, what's his cameo? Maybe he can be the guy in the hypno glasses that people see as Clark Kent instead of David Cornswet. That's what I would have done if I was going to introduce this idea. I'm just saying. Because to me, I'm like, the glasses, you have to suspend your disbelief. And if you can't do that, then what are we even doing? Don't invent an even dumber thing. He's not inventing it. It's from the comics. Anyway, all that to say, well, that's the Clark Kent stuff. I really like the interview scene between Lois and Clark. I like seeing, like, we've all been in those domestic disagreements too, where the emotions escalate and that sort of thing. So that was fun to see. So anyway, and then as Superman, he's a little like Super Friend Superman, like, oh gosh, golly gee shucks. I'm like, okay, did we overdo that? Maybe, I don't know. But he's just getting his ass beat all the time, and I'd rather him not just be just writhing on the floor bleeding in almost every scene that he's in. So I wanted to see, I mean, he had some, like, he lifted some buildings and things like that, but I'm just like, does this Superman have to go recharge the fortress every time he does anything? I don't know. So that's where I am with his power level. And hey, I'm used to the costume. I still don't like the costume, but I got used to it. So that's where I am with him. Like all these other guys, like Brandon Routh before him and Henry Cavill, I want to see more. I want to see him evolve into the character. And like you've been saying, go into other areas. Let's see it. So on board for him. Rachel Brosnahan, as I anticipated, great as Lois. Like, no notes, really. I mean, we all knew she was going to be great. She was great. Nothing else to say there. Really like Jimmy. Like all these, these movies like struggle with, what do we do with these Daily Planet characters? You're right. Even though they cast the whole cast of the Daily Planet, I expected more from all of them, and then they're barely in it at all. But Jimmy got stuff to do, and I really liked, actually, surprising to me, of all things, the Miss Tessmacher subplot with him. I really enjoyed. That was a good use of him. I think we all knew Ultraman was going to be Ultraman. Like, I think everybody knew that. I'm so tired of these. Oh, guess what? I'm like, yeah, I know. I could have told you that originally. But okay, all that to say, it wasn't too James Gunny either. Like, I mean, yeah, there was some comedy in there, but it wasn't like, I didn't feel like I was watching, Guardians of the Galaxy 4 or whatever. I don't know if that's a bad example or not, but I didn't think yes, there was a lot of comedy in there, and they did undercut some serious moments, but it was not to the extent that I might have feared when I heard that James Gunn was writing and directing this film. So there is that. If you love Crypto, you're going to love the movie. I mean, mileage may vary on Crypto. I still think they should have used a real dog as much as they could, because there's just something weird looking at this, like, uncanny valley of a dog when he's just sitting on a couch. I'm like, that could be a real dog. I don't know why we can't do that. So I'm just giving you all my thoughts right now because we haven't talked about it. But okay, so let's burn all that away. Lex Luthor. I was very disappointed in Lex Luthor in this movie. I felt he was one-dimensional, and I couldn't tell what Nicholas Hoult was going for. Like, he was doing something. I just don't know. Like, what's your angle here? I know that because we don't see like the backstory of them. What is his true motivation? They start quoting All-Star Superman at each other at the end, I guess, to just kind of justify it. I'm like, well, that's kind of out of context. But so I honestly, that's what really disappointed me about it, because Lex is always one of my favorite things about these movies, and or TV shows too, right? I mean, he's one of the best parts. I love Lex Luthor as a character, and I just felt they just were kind of lazy with him. Like, oh yeah, well, he hates Superman, right? Okay, there we go. That's the motivation you need. So I was really disappointed in Lex Luthor here, and that's why I'm like, how. Never did I think I was going to say, Jesse Eisenberg, he's really better Lex Luthor than Nicholas Hoult. Like, here I am sitting on a microphone. Come at me, everybody. But yes, he looked like Lex Luthor. Looked great in his suits and his vests and his shaved head and his Luthor Corp offices. But so help me appreciate this Lex Luthor, Anthony.
Okay. Oh, I'm glad we're doing this because, it's funny as you were going through everything until you got to Lex. I'm like, yeah, like I basically
sounds like you love the movie.
Well, no, not even so much that, but a little bit of that. But also I'm like, I said basically the same things in my episode about it, where like I had liked a lot of the same things, but had a lot of the same quibble, with the hypno glasses, for example. If Guy Gardner had said, oh, he has hypno glasses, and Lois had just rolled her eyes and they had left it ambiguous, I would have been fine with that, right? But it's like they confirm it, but like you said, they don't do anything with it. But it's like, it doesn't ruin the movie for me. So with Lex, this is one of those things, like, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, like when we talk about motivation for why does Lex hate Superman? I know people will be like, what are you guys talking about? But yeah, like the Eisenberg version of Lex, like that was a very like ideological opposition to Superman. Like that wasn't about like, oh, he's interfering with my plans and I'm jealous. Like I was abused as a child. No one saved me. Like, so there's no God. There's no God who can be both all good and all powerful. And people are holding you up to that. And that cannot be. And I'm going to bring you down and dirty you up. So I show them. I mean, like, that's pretty fundamental, right?
Yeah. Now God bends to my will. Like, now I understand this is his objective. He achieved, right? Yeah.
Right. Look, we love Smallville. Smallville gave you this whole personal side. I mean, look, by the time you're done with Smallville, you get pretty much every flavor of this, right? You have Lex being like, I got to protect humanity, but also Clark never told him a secret. And also they fought over Lana. But for me, I look at Smallville really as personal. Like there was this personal divide between them. But what we often see in other iterations is more of this, he's interfering with my plans, this jealousy aspect. And so I do feel like kind of the motivation here was more surface level than we've seen in other iterations. But I got to say, there was that brief moment where it looks like, oh, it's another real estate scheme, right, to get control of half the country. But I like the way that played and that turn where he's like, I'm not trying to kill you so I can get this land. Like I'm orchestrating this war so I can kill you.
I did like that. Yeah, that was a good turn.
And just the fact, I do like that it's acknowledged. Superman's like, oh, so you're just jealous. He's like, yeah, no shit. But then kind of this added layer. And this is, I think, very in keeping with what we've seen and heard from Lex over the years in various iterations of how Superman's very presence diminishes humanity. Right. And that he's exalted for these abilities that he just came to Earth with, right? That he didn't earn it. So, yeah, I don't think it's the most in-depth motivation for the character.
We find that out in their climax of like when they're yelling at each other, when they're out ideologically each other. I felt like I was like, they got to the end of the script like, oh, we didn't really establish that, did we? And I felt like that's how it felt to me. And that's what I'm saying. My opinion of Lex Luthor will affect my opinion of all these movies. So that's a huge thing for me, Anthony. Trying to work this out.
Yeah, no. And I think it's funny. In a lot of respects, I think the movie did well by just kind of jumping into this fully formed world. Like, oh no, we don't see his first. I mean, if you and I read the prequel novel, so we saw his first meeting with the Justice Gang. But it's like, yeah, no, we're not given this backstory between Superman and Lex. I still wish they had given them a past together in Smallville. Like that would, that would have been something. I guess for me, I liked his, kind of his tactics. I found his tactics, I guess, more interesting in terms of how he was manipulating events and public opinion, more so than, what we ultimately get as far as that motivation. Like I said, what we get it's fine. I don't think it's the most nuanced take on the character, but it's it's in keeping with like generally and at least it goes beyond, we love Superman, the movie and the Gene Hackman, but like it goes beyond like, oh, he's just greedy and Superman's in his way. So like, I get it, but that wasn't a roadblock for me.
We've come such a long way with the character. I mean, you did a whole series about it. Was it last summer before, like the evolution of the character?
It was like 3 years ago or more. Was it so long ago?
It was like yesterday, but it's like, yeah, I mean, this feels like the most basic version you could possibly do. I'm like, well, that's a little disappointing because there's so many angles, and I mean, maybe in a sequel he'll come back and do something else. But I'm like, I'm not really invested in that rivalry or between them. Plus, we saw their first meeting in this movie, which was so underwhelming. Like that's the first meeting he's been around for 3 years. He's never met Lex Luthor, and when he is busting about the dog, he's losing his emotional control. Like, that's as I'm talking through it, I really their handling of Lex is the reason why this is so low on my list. I'm working through my thoughts and feelings here, y'all, together. So thank you for listening to me.
Yeah, no, but I get it. Like, and I could see why that could be a roadblock, right? Because it's such a fundamental part of the movie. And yeah, like I said, I think we've definitely gotten more interesting takes. But really, like you said, when they're quoting All-Star Superman, but yeah, like that version of Lex, like and maybe that's, I don't know, like why it didn't bug me. Cause I guess I can kind of put it into its place of like, okay, like they're going with that take on the character. And at least it's a little bit more developed than pure greed or jealousy. So
this might be where expectations got me, because I have been pretty level-headed to skeptical of this movie more than most of us and our friends in podcasting and fandom. I've probably been the biggest skeptic of this coming out, but I thought, well, for sure I'll love Nicholas Holt's Lex here. And that got me, man. I think my expectations got me because I was waiting for this generational, like finally we get the Michael Rosenbaum Lex Luthor versus Superman on the big screen, because that's kind of what I was thinking it was going to be, and it seemed that way in the promotional material. And I think that's what got me. That's what got me there. So
the big thing I want to ask you, because when we did our first discussion of this, DeVoe thought I was going to be really upset about this, and I've had other people kind of reaching out about it. But the Jor-El and Lara message.
You see, we are Smallville fans.
And that's what I said to DeVoe. I'm like, well, you didn't watch 10 seasons of Smallville, but like I was primed for that.
Yeah.
Rule them with strength.
I don't mind that at all. That's interesting because now that I've seen it, I didn't want to read reviews or anything before I saw it and then recorded my first initial podcast, which now I'll probably go back and listen to. I'm like, oh man, why was I so hard on it or whatever? We'll see after this. But now that I'm seeing what other people think, that seems to be a real big point of contention. I'm like, y'all, where were you back in 2004? This is Smallville. Like this is what we do. And I actually, you might have talked about this too. Like that's actually kind of more interesting if they did do that.
Yep.
Where he sent them there they're not evil, but they're like, hey, we're going to send you to this primitive planet and just take it over and good luck to you. Like, well, that's a new take, fresh take on Kryptonians.
For this particular version, if the whole theme and his arc in this movie, right, is choosing who he's going to be, not relying on this message that he's been clinging to his whole life, right? And to go from being soothed by the message of Jor-El and Lara to then being soothed by the home movies of his earthly family, like it tracks with the story Gunn was telling here. Like I'm surprised now to hear so much of the chatter about that.
Like, they've radically changed the Superman mythology. I was like, you were not locked in 2003 like us. We were there when they started this whole thing. So, oh man. Okay. Well, we could talk about James Gunn Superman all day. But is there anything else you want to?
No, I'm just
before you wrap it up.
No, I mean, I'm glad to get your take on it and to hear where you're coming from on it. And look, if it remains number 8 on your list forever, like that's totally fine. But honestly, like based on the concerns you raised, I honestly think a subsequent viewing, knowing what you're getting, I think it's going to smooth over at least some of this. I don't think you're going to be like, oh man, it's number 1 now. But like, I think it might smooth over. Honestly, I think it might. But I do get what you're saying. But yeah,
if we get a sequel and we get to see David Corenswet do more Clark Kent things and more Daily Planet people, and then Lex is doing more, so like a lot. There's a lot of potential. But you can't judge stuff off the potential it might be. But I know I'll feel better about it if we get something else that kind of addresses the perceived problems I have, because I was so hyped to see man, Henry Cavill, there's no difference between Clark and Superman. Oh, and I agree most of the time, right? I mean, but he's no Christopher Reeve in the Division, and that's totally fine. I mean, Tyler Hoechlin's probably last on that list, right down there with George Reeves as far as difference goes, right? All that to say, I see this, I'm like, oh, they're gonna give us the bumbling Clark Kent, and then you get it for 2 scenes, and I was disappointed in that as well. I was like, oh no, is he done with the glasses? He's never gonna put them back on? Are we never going back? Because if you look at these older Superman movies, Clark Kent's in them quite a bit. Everybody,
Yeah,
maybe that's because there was no budget at the time, and they were like, hey Chris, just be Clark as much as you can. I don't know, like the Clark Kent is as important as Superman, and hey, I'm sure if you add up the numbers, he's Superman in this more than any other film. I'm sure, for better or for worse, mileage may vary. So those are the things I'm looking for in James Gunn's Superman 2, Anthony.
all right on. So the last movie to talk about is my number 2, and clearly your number 1. 1978's Superman the movie, starring Christopher Reeve, directed by Richard Donner.
Superman the movie, my number 1.
You know, it's one of those things. Like I said, I've had a journey with this movie. Never disliked it.
I'm shocked it's so high for you. I'm very impressed. I'm glad you.
No,
like it so much.
Well, it's funny because we've been joking, right? Leading up to James Gunn's Superman, you've seen the word generational thrown around a lot, and whether James Gunn's Superman ends up being that, TBD. But I think more than fair to say Superman the movie is that, and context is important, right? And what it was able to do at that early point in superhero adaptations, to be able to tell that story with as much integrity, right, in its storytelling, in its production value, is really astounding. And it just treated the material with respect, and it gave you this like epic, mythic journey. And like you said, right, like Batman Begins and then the Man of Steel version where we're jumping back and forth in time. Sure, like that approach works as well. But here, I mean, you really had these multiple acts, 4 acts really, right, as we go through the saga. But yeah, I mean, it's really stirring, right? And I think conjures the spirit of the character that you want.
Well, that's a very concise, beautiful way to put it. I'll try to follow that up with something of substance. No, I mean, it's my favorite superhero movie of all time. Now, it's like it's so entrenched now. I don't think it's ever going to change, and that's fine. It's like what's going to come around. I mean, sure. I mean, I think what. I'm a big Godzilla fan, right? And Godzilla -1 came out a couple years ago, and I'll tell you, right? I'll look you in the eye and tell you that's the best Godzilla movie of all time. It really is. So it's possible. It's possible for this to be dethroned at some point. But of course, no other Godzilla movie is as good as Superman the movie. So maybe that's a bad example because this is a fantastic film. I mean, this is Christopher Reeve is unmatched. I mean, his performance. I mean, you just look at just the little quirks that he does, and just all the little. We've all talked about the scene where he takes the glasses off and stands up tall and deepens his voice. Lois, or something, I got to tell you, like it's all you talk about it all the time, but there's a reason you talk about it all the time because it is art. I mean, he's just incredible in this, and supporting cast. I mean, it's the first movie, so it's almost every movie. Jimmy and Perry don't have much to do, but they're perfect. Like for those characters, right? Lois is great. I mean, Margot Kidder, and this film especially, and then Superman 2, like she's really good. Their whole interplay, they have great chemistry. I mean, they're still my favorite on the big screen. Superman and Lois as a couple. Give David and Rachel 2 or 3 more movies, we'll see where we are. But they have the advantage, right? And that's the thing. Superman the movie here, it's up here. People ask, why is Christopher Reeve so generational? I'm like, look, he had 4 movies and then nothing else came after it. And then the next iteration was a sequel to that, sort of. So like, how do you, it's unfair to compare him to Brandon Routh and Kate Bosworth or even Henry Cavill and Amy Adams because their 2 sequels were Batman and Justice League movies, really. So it's really hard. They got, Margot Kidder's barely in 3. But anyway, the groundwork of all that is established here. And that first interview scene is so romantic between the 2 of them. There are all these innuendos. It's actually, it's kind of sexy for the time, And then, of course, no movie is perfect. That flight with her like spoken word poem. I mean, I would probably. I almost skipped that, by the way, when I was rewatching it. I did rewatch this one too, by the way, because it's my favorite. I will on this note. I have been rewatching the 3-hour TV cut ever since it came out. When I rewatch it, this will probably be the last time I watch it that way for a while. It's talk about film school again. I keep going back to that. That's a film school in editing right there because it's just scenes are too long, moments are ruined by extended shots, things like that. It's a fun way to watch the movie just to get the most of it, literally the most of it, in lengthwise. But I'm going to go back to that special edition, which is the what came out in 2000, 2001. Because mainly one of the most incredible displays of Superman's powers, just so nonchalantly, is him walking through Luthor's gauntlet, the bullets, the fire, the ice. That's incredible. And he's so unfazed, and it's incredible to see that. And to think they cut that out. Is it Warner Brothers again? Cutting stuff out of movies?
Gauntlet, Dark Side. Who wants this? It's like, what?
It's incredible. So, I've heard it said or read it said somewhere, and I'm sorry, I don't know where it is. I don't want to. I did not come up with this idea myself, so I would give credit if I could remember. But I've heard it said like this is like it's like a biopic for a fictional character. It's like as if Superman was a historical character. This is like, let's tell the story of Superman. And that's how this feels, right? From his birth, his landing, his greatest challenges. So let's talk about Lex Luthor for a second. I was so hard on Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor. I have found that there's got to be some like comedic twinge or some quirk or something to Lex Luthor to kind of really give him some character beyond just like, because you're right. His motivation is greed. But the way Gene Hackman, one of the greatest actors of all time, playing this character, he's more like a Bond villain. We all know this. Tom Mankiewicz wrote some James Bond movies, so you can see the connective tissue there. This is pre-crisis, right? So why isn't he LexCorp? Because although Lex Luthor Incorporated
right
is buying up all that desert land. Anyway, all that to say, I feel like I've underrated him over the years, and he's just so enjoyable to watch now. Like Otis and his Tessmacher, your mileage may vary with them, and he's very of the time. But but I think like how does a warp brain like yours get his kicks? Like by causing the death of people. That's a great back and forth. I mean, he can be friendly, and then he can just turn on a dime and be totally evil. And that's cool. That's threatening. So anyway, all that to say, there's so much greatness here. Marlon Brando, of course, these, Jor-El, and one of the greatest actors of all time. So just, I mean, it's a who's who of great actors. And then, I will defend the ends of the movie, The Time Reversal, Anthony. I don't know, where do you, this is now your number 2 Superman movie, according to this list, by this reckoning. How do you feel about The Time Reversal? Then I know that is this movie's, oh my God, he broke Zod's neck. That is this movie's version of that. So where do you fall on that?
Oh no, I love it because I love that whole range of emotion that he goes through, from finding Lois, the grief, the rage, and then the words of both fathers echoing in his head, and him making this choice to save someone in the way that he wasn't able to save Jonathan Kent. No, I mean, I love it. And it's like, yeah, he's breaking a rule, but I like that fallibility. Like I said, if I've had one issue over the years, it's just that he felt too much of the God among men. But really, this most recent time I went through all of them, 3 and 4, certainly they really lean more into the humanity, but even 1 and 2, and talking about Superman, the movie here, and talking about the special edition. I mean, like, I love that scene where he's talking to Jor-El, right? And he's feeling this pride over this first, and Jor-El brings him back down to earth, but that, and then, certainly this ending here. No, I'm all for it. And all to get to that moment of relief, right? When she's alive, don't bother. I think it's dead, right? Like, and she's yelling at him, and he's got a big smile, like, oh man, no, it's great. No, I love it.
That scene, like, if I had to like distill that and show people what Superman and Lois's relationship and interplay is, that scene. She's like, what's happening to me? We were flying around, it was telephone poles, an earthquake, and a car. He's like, well, I'm sorry, Lois, I was kind of busy for a while. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like that is them. That is like that little exchange is their relationship just across time and media. Like I think that's perfection. So the power of love propelled him to reverse time for like 5 minutes or something. And it's a one-off thing. And that's why Richard Donner's Superman 2 is so low for me. It's like a slap in the face to that just powerful emotional moment. Because of course he can't just do that anytime he wants. That would be ridiculous. I agree that would be ridiculous if he could do that anytime he wants. So anyway, that you have to have that too. What's so interesting, I'm sure people know this if they've heard our podcast about it. Like, that was even going to be the ending. They added that Richard Lester was like consulting on this movie. And when they said, hey, we're not going to do the cliffhanger between 1 and 2. We need we need something like an emotional beat at the end. Like, why don't we have Lois died and reverse Earth here? And they're like, what about the ending of Superman 2? And they're like, we'll figure it out later. And they didn't figure it out later, I guess. But can you imagine how like this movie would hit if he just stopped the missiles?
I found that draft. I wish I had saved it, but I found like that version of the script online at some point. And it's pretty anticlimactic. Like he just saves her and that's it. No, like you need that big, I mean, it ties everything together. It goes back to that Smallville sequence. No, I mean, it's great. No, yeah, I'm on board with it.
Yeah,
for sure.
And just the charm of it is unmatched. And it's a delightful movie. And it's of its time, but it's also like, it's a tale as old as time as well. It's like mythology. So it's of the 70s, like visually, but the feeling of it is timeless, I feel. And it's not a competition here. I'm not like, whoa, I'm my number one and you're number four and blah, 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 or whatever. Right. I think it's fun to talk about fellow fans, people who are as into this stuff and as inundated with it as you are, right? To hear their fellow opinions. It's really like you and I connecting about Smallville. It's really fun. I'm like, oh man, I thought the same thing for 20 years too. Oh, that's cool. Also fun to hear you say something. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. I've never thought about that before. So I don't know. I think variety is a spice of life. It's not a competition. I know everybody tries to pit these different versions and fandoms against each other. They're like, you know what? I wish you all could see the world the way I see it. Because when you look at it that way, we're all one world. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, people. Thank you very much.
These are all just Superman movies. We're all just Superman fans. No, that's the thing. I don't enjoy one iteration at the expense of another. Right. We can enjoy them all. And that's a beauty. You don't have to, but it's a beautiful thing. So do you want to recap your top half, your 6 through 1?
Yes. So my number 6, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition. My number 5, Superman Returns. My number 4, Man of Steel. My number 3, Zack Snyder's Justice League. My number 2, Superman 2, the theatrical cut. And my number 1, Superman, the movie, 1978.
All right, my number 6, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Number 5, Superman 2. Number 4, BVS. Number 3, James Gunn's Superman. Number 2, Superman the movie. And number 1, Man of Steel.
So James Gunn's Superman is really the one that's the outliner for us, like as far as like being the biggest gap.
That's the biggest gap, yeah. Yeah, they didn't line up, obviously they didn't line up a lot, but for the most part, like I think our picks were kind of in the same ballpark, but that was
same tiers. They're comparable to each other. Yeah, that's the most radically different one, and it's fresh, it's new. Our opinions are still crystallizing about it. Like we were talking about the top about these opinions you share on a microphone, and you hear them 5 years later. I'm like, who knows what we're gonna think 5 years from now about this stuff, right?
I know. Well, in time, look, I might cool on it a little bit. You might come around on it. We might meet in the middle. On time, we'll see.
And by the way, where would Black Adam be in your list? That's a Superman movie, right? Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, we not including cameos. Oh man, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for joining me to do this.
Absolutely, man. No, this was great. A lot of surprises in here. A lot of things that I expected. A lot of surprises as well. That's what's fun doing stuff like this, because you never know what's going to happen. And again, these are not the final word. I expect everybody to have very different lists than us. And if you do, that's great. Nothing's right. Nothing's wrong. I mean, again, some of these movies at the bottom of my list, I will keep rewatching over and over again to the rest of my life. Some of them at the top, I probably won't rewatch as much. So it's just, I'm just glad we have all these Superman movies. I wish we had as many movies as Batman does, but this is the world we live in. So these are the Superman movies we have, and I'm going to love them.
Yeah, no, same. It's like, I don't need these etched in stone, right? This is a journey and that it might shift, but this is where I am. And I do feel good about this. And yeah, that rewatchability was a key factor. And then also just that emotional response and the extent to which each of those entries has really stayed with me. That kind of guided a lot of it. So
yeah,
I thank you again for joining me. I look forward to the next time we talk. And audience, thank you for tuning in. I hope you have enjoyed James gunning for Superman, all these episodes we've done. It's been a fun, exciting time. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll be resuming our normal weekly release schedule next week. So make sure you come back for that. Until then, as always, it's about what you do. It's about action. Support the show and receive exclusive content, including the spin-off podcast Beyond Metropolis, advanced listens, and more by becoming a member at patreon.com/Anthony Desiato. My sincere thanks to all patrons. Subscribe, rate, and review today via your platform of choice, and continue the conversation by joining us on social media. Links are in the show notes. Flat Squirrel Podcast is also home to another exciting episode in the Adventures of Superman, now covering the color era of the classic George Reeves series. Subscribe today.